Hey folks, welcome back. It's great to see everybody. I was just talking to a friend of mine, and we started down this road of what we need to address as far as us being auctioneers and real estate brokers. And one of the things that we commonly come across is estates that just, or executors or administrators that want everything out of the house, and then they're thinking that they're going to sell the house, which is great. That's fantastic. That's part of what we do. We go in, we pick up the stuff, and we either sell it at a warehouse if you're lucky enough to find an auctioneer or estate tag sale company that does that, or we have an estate tag sale company on a estate tag sale on site, or we do an auction on site. In either way, those events are fantastic. But I want to talk to you tonight about a problem. And the problem is kind of sort of serious. And what I mean by it's kind of sort of serious, it's kind of sort of serious in the way of, we've lost the bag. And that is that once somebody passes away or they've been moved into a senior facility, sometimes the executor or the power of attorney, or cousin Andy, who's doing all of the work of the family, or the sibling to that effect, they will move out of the house and then they will just leave the house there. Well, there's a couple of things that happen whenever that particular situation happens, but I want to go over certain situations with you so you understand it. It should only take about 15 minutes. So the first thing is that whenever you leave a house abandoned, such as you move out and you think that maybe mom or dad is going to move back into the property, and it may be a year, maybe 2 years, they're going through rehab, etc., chances are you're going to find that there's going to be somebody who's going to be an opportunist, and they're going to go into the property either through the back door, through a window, or something like that, and then they're going to basically take over the property. And what we call that is squatters. And in North Carolina, just like everybody else, there's squatters' rights. I don't know why why squatters even have rights. They don't have a lease. They're trespassing, and they have no need to be there. However, in North Carolina, we have adverse possession laws in which they have to be there knowingly for 20 years. Well, even if they're there knowingly for 6 months, they're still trespassing, and they need to be arrested and carried off. The thing about it is that whenever somebody passes away, there's an obituary that's run in the page in the newspaper. And in that obituary, it tells them, like with me, it's like Matt Price of Fuquay Varina passed away on this date. Well, all of a sudden, somebody's going on site and finding out where I live, and then they're turning around and they're breaking down the back door, and then they're claiming the house is their own. And the thing about it is that they may take all the goods and services, or take all the goods out of the property, and they'll turn around and sell them for whatever, for food or something like that. The thing about it is that the faster that the property is put on the market, the better. And the reason is because you're going to be getting rid of a lot of things. One is you're going to be getting rid of a tax bill, you're going to be getting rid of a water and sewer bill, and you're going to be getting rid of a power bill. Then that's just a couple of the things that you're going to be getting rid of, that the estate is going to be on the hook for. Now, if you're a power of attorney, understand that the power of attorney dies when the person who issued you the power of attorney passes away. So what happens then is that the power of attorney has, that they can turn the power on, they can turn the power off. That's all fine and dandy, but once they pass away, now it turns over to the executor or the administrator, or to the state, depending on how that is. The thing about it is to understand is that 9 times out of 10, and I'll just say 9 times out of 10, or 90% of the people die without a will. So whenever you see that, and it may even be 85% now, I can't remember because I saw the thing come through with USA Today. The thing to remember about that is that whenever you pass away without a will, then the state of North Carolina is the one that has to figure out what to do, and usually that's through an attorney. And whenever you're dealing with an attorney, of course, you're dealing with an expensive option. So it's important for you to go out. I'm going to be quite blunt with you and not sugarcoat this, but I don't care if you're 21 years old, or if you're 80 years old, you need to go find an attorney that can draw up a will, and you need to sit down with them and tell them where your assets are going to go, and you need to get it witnessed and recorded. I told my kid, who's 22 years old and going to the Army, before he steps foot on that bus, he needs to have a last will and testament ready to go, because he's got assets that need to be distributed according to his wishes and not everybody else's. But that's just me. I tell my kids all of that. So the thing about it is that you have to understand that the last will and testament tells people what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and everything else. And you need to get an attorney who's capable of doing that, not one that just plays one on TV. Because I can tell you that I've had run-ins with attorneys that say that they're estate attorneys who don't understand the property rights and how property rights are affected in the state of North Carolina. And as far as I'm concerned, if they don't know that, they're not an estate attorney, and they need to be kicked to the curb. But anyway, and replaced with somebody who's competent. So the thing about it is that you want to ensure that the property is secure when they go into the home or after they pass away. And you also want to make sure that any kind of bills or anything like that is being collected on a regular basis, because somebody was going to crack open that thing and find out, how much the power bill is, how much the water bill is, and things like that. And it leaves it open to identity theft, especially if they get their Social Security checks still by mail. And there's a few that still get it by mail, believe it or not, even though it's electronically deposited. So the other thing too is that we want to ensure that we understand that anything that we don't do to a property decreases the value. And what I mean by that is that if we don't mow the yard, we don't get the weed eater out and weed eat, and we don't go and check for maintenance issues such as the roof is leaking, etc., then it will lead to a decrease in value across the board. So let me go over this. I've got like 8 or 9 points that I'll go over. One is the decreased property value. Of course, the lack of maintenance can result in a decrease in the property of overall value, and the potential buyers may be deterred by any visible signs of neglect, and that includes if you have to have the power shut off, and the power company removes the what they call, I don't know what they call it, but if they remove the device that tracks the power of the place, the county removes the water or the town removes the water. All of that can decrease the value, because now the home is susceptible to people breaking in and taking stuff and stealing and a whole host of other issues. It can also include structural damage, such as, you have a tree and all of a sudden you have a branch go through the roof. Now you have a roof with a hole in it, and you have water that's just filtering down into it. Without regular upkeep, buildings may experience structural issues such as roof leaks, foundation problems, and deterioration of walls. And these issues can be costly in repairs if they're left unattended to. And 9 times out of 10, it might be just something that's easy, like, a little bit of tar stops that leak versus anything major. However, if it goes on for an extended period of time, all of a sudden there's a big hole in the roof, and God just pours every single last ounce of water right into that, and it just destroys the house. And all of a sudden, your $350,000 house is now worth just the property on the land, which is probably anywhere $30,000 to $70,000 depending on where you live. Pest infestations is also an issue. Unmaintained properties are more prone to pest infestations such as insects, rodents, and other pests that can cause damage to the structure and further decrease the property's value. That includes termites, rats, mice. Mice like to chew through just about everything and anything in order to get to that box of Triscuits that's been left in the lower cupboards. And not only that, but you also have things that are in the upper cupboards that may not have been washed exactly to um, everybody's thinking, or there might be a trash can, or there may be stuff that's inside of the dishwasher, or there may even be some stuff that is in the sink. Anytime that you have that kind of situation, you're inviting all of those pests in, and they are going to be relentless, and they're going to cost a lot of money. And if they go unabated, termite infestation can literally have you replace the entire house if it goes on long enough. Code variants: local municipalities generally have uh, regular uh, they have regulations based on the property maintenance. So you may have grass that's about 10 feet tall or so. The neglected properties may be subject to code violations and then fines if they don't meet the required standards. And then, of course, if they don't meet the required standards, then it goes through what is called a foreclosure process. And that foreclosure process does nothing more than takes the entirety of the property out of your hands, and then it sells it to somebody who is going to make it whole again in order for somebody to live in it. A lot of people get upset because the house that they've had ever since they've been, half high to a grasshopper, all of a sudden is now snatched from the family, and then somebody buys it, and then they go in and they fix it. But this is what happens when you have properties that have been neglected for so long. Not only when you deal with neglect, you're also dealing with safety concerns. And what do I mean by that is, with that tall grass, you also have, when you have a house that may be going back to nature. And what I mean by that is you have mold and mildew and trees growing out of the eave troughs and stuff like that. You have properties that can pose safety hazards, such as broken windows, unstable structures, and overgrown vegetation that can create unsafe environments for both occupants and passersby. And of course, when we're talking about those little critters, you're also talking about snakes, because snakes like tall grass. And you're also talking about things that may have rabies, and they may be just stored in there, just waiting for the opportunity to jump out at your neighbors because they've got a bad attitude because their brains are messed up, such as raccoons and the like. The thing about it is that a lot of ticks, fleas, and other bugs like to get in there. And in some cases, I've seen wasp nests get built in between a couple of really strong stalks of grass. And when it went, it just blew right there until I ran over it with a lawnmower, and they weren't too happy with it. The neighborhood impact overall, whenever you have a house that's been sitting on the side of a corner and nobody has mowed the yard or anything like that, and you may have a tree that fell through it, or you may have things blowing off and stuff like that. That kind of neglect also has a neighborhood impact, and those neglected properties can negatively impact the overall appearance and desirability of that neighborhood. Not only that, but if you have a HOA that turns around and says, well, you know what, you neglected this, we're going to foreclose on it, the HOA can turn around and they can sell it as well. And this can lead to a decreased property value for your home and everybody else. And they can turn around and actually sue you or the estate for the difference in the prices that they got before and after because of the neglected property. And then you also have legal issues. Say, for instance, somebody walks up and they actually are putting a magazine or nail or mail into the door because the mailbox is overfull and they get bit by a snake. Depending on the local laws, property owners may face legal consequences for failing to maintain their estate. their real estate. And this could involve fines and other penalties imposed by local authorities. And that could be even because somebody trips and falls, or it could be that somebody walked down the property and got a nail in their foot from where some of the roofing fell off. In all cases, the legal issues are valid, and 9 times out of 10, you'll find out real quick that the judges will side with the person who's injured versus you who have abandoned the property, because who is more apt to do something? The person who was actually trying to do something that had the problem, or the person who abandoned the property, the estate that has abandoned the property. Increase the repair costs. Anytime that you're abandoning a particular property, you have to understand that the more or the longer that you allow that drip to go, the more coverage it's going to have as far as what it's going to turn soggy. That one little itty bitty drip can turn into a huge water balloon issue as you go down the road. So something that might be a small piece of hose that you don't consider $6 fix can turn into a $6,000 to $60,000 fix depending on what's going on with the property. And anytime that you're talking about that particular issue, you're talking about not only is it going to increase your repair costs, but it's likely it's not going to lead to a particular sale. So you may say that you need $300,000 out of a house that has a toilet that just fell through the floor. You're not going to get $300,000 for that house. You're probably going to get about $100,000 because of all the repair costs for it. Difficulty in selling or renting. An unmaintained property simply is not palatable for anybody. It's like getting a hamburger, but it looks like a piece of ground chicken or a chicken nugget before it's cooked. I can tell you that unmaintained properties are generally less attractive to potential buyers and renters. And if you think that you're going to turn around and you're going to get rental out of a particular toilet that's fallen through, a property that has a toilet that's fallen through, the sink doesn't work, the refrigerator smokes, like your Aunt Sally with a 3-pack a day habit. That's just not going to happen, and you're going to wind up on the hook to fix all of that stuff before you sell it, or you're just going to have to sell it as is, and you're not going to get top dollar for it. And this can make it challenging to sell or lease the property at a desirable price. So a lot of people think that walking into a single-family home for $2,400 a month is going to be the best thing since sliced bread. But if all of the things that need to be fixed aren't fixed, then you're not looking at $2,400. You might be looking at $400 a month because you basically overpriced yourself out of renting the property. Now, the other thing, this is the big one, is the negative impact on the community. And the community image, especially if you have a bunch of nice houses all the way around and all of a sudden you have this eyesore that's part of the estate because it's been neglected for so long. Those neglected properties can continue to be a negative perception on the community, and there's not really anything that you can do about it outside of fixing it. And this may affect the community's overall image, and residents pride themselves in their neighborhood, and especially if they have a homeowners association, they're going to be looking to you to keep it up and keep it operating and keep it looking good. So they don't have that problem. And it's important for you to understand you have to prioritize the regular maintenance. Regular maintenance and probate is something that you have to schedule for and you have to consider, because it's one of those things where either probate, or if you just move somebody into a senior transition facility, it's better for you to call somebody like me who will go in and walk with the family saying, okay, what has to stay with the individual as they go to their apartment in the senior transition facility? What can they take? Okay, well, that's great. Our job is to try to minimize what goes in the storage, because eventually what happens is people forget what goes in the storage, and me being an auctioneer, I wind up having to auction it off anyway. And to me, it's worth more for me to try to keep that money in with the estate what we call a living estate, so it can pay the bills for the individual who has to go into the senior facility, versus that money going to the storage facility because somebody just crammed all of that stuff in, thinking that now it's out of the way, they can sell the house. So it's important to realize that if you plan it outright, which is one of the things that Black River Property Advisors does, is we find the individuals to help you go from the senior management to senior transitions into those new facilities. And we also find those psychologists that will help you go through and figure out what you can keep, what you can take, what gets donated, and what gets trashed. And then we can turn around and clean out the house, do some minor repairs, and then try to get the house sold for the best price. A lot of people don't do that. They'll sit there and allow that property a lot of people just contact a real estate broker, and the real estate broker will say, yes, I've done probate and I've done this and I've done that. However, what they won't tell you is that their solution to everything is to back up a dumpster and dump everything out of the house, and then go ahead and lift it up, and then have somebody come in and vacuum the floors, and then put a sign out front. And that takes a lot of the equity out of the personal property that could go and pay some of the bills, or pay back some Medicaid, or pay back some of the other companies that they have a debt to, such as the power company or something to that effect, and then turn around and allow them to have a little bit more happy life. Additionally, if you have the other thing too is, if you have a situation where somebody comes, the power company comes, takes the power away, and they go and they pull the box where you can't plug in the power anymore, and they cut the wires, and you have the town or county, or whoever the water authority is, turn off the water. You are also creating a situation where the particular property is going to have to come up to the code of the code of enforcement of today, versus waiting until tomorrow. And the reason is because now when those boxes are put in, those boxes were put in for a code of then. Now, when you're trying to get those boxes plugged back in, you have to upgrade those codes in order to meet the new boxes that have to go on the house, and it has to be re-inspected. And not only that, but it also has to be taken a look at by not only the code enforcement, but also an inspector, to ensure that nothing is going to explode whenever everything is plugged back in. And it's also going to have to be looked at by an electrical contractor, in order to ensure that if they do plug that back in, that the house isn't going to burn down. Not only that, but if you do get squatters in there and they do light a fire in the gas fireplace, there's a 100% chance that the rest of the house is going to disappear in a blaze. And the thing to understand is that if the house catches on fire and it kills the person who's in there, you're on the hook, because that's how it works. So anything with the property, you're going to have to either have insurance, you're going to have regular maintenance, you're going to have somebody go in and ensure that there's no squatters or anything else that's going to cause any issues. And you're also going to have to ensure that if it's through probate, you also have to ensure that everything is documented that you do with the property, including any of the maintenance, paying taxes, or anything else like that. And while somebody is in senior living, or if they have passed away, unfortunately, you are on the hook for paying all of those bills. And before you go and snatch those cables out of the wall and say, well, we're not going to pay this power bill because nobody lives here, I want you to understand that by law, you're going to have to put those cables back in order to have the house inspected by a particular buyer. And you can say that you want to do it as is, where is. However, that's still a requirement for some of the financing that gets done on a regular basis. So anyway, and the water has to work, because everybody has to see that the toilet's flush, etc. So we want to ensure that All of these plans are taken into account, and on Black River Property Advisors, we're coming up with a couple of checklists for probate people and senior transition specialists, or if you're a power of attorney, in order to help you go through that checklist to ensure that you have gotten everything that you're going to need as far as uh, moving the family forward. Anyway, if you have any questions, my name is Matt Price. My phone number is 919-614-6288, and I will be happy to talk to you about any probate or any kind of senior transition specialist type stuff, including moving, places to go, and things that you could probably take. And the three piles that the three, what we call the three pile system, which is your take, donate, and trash. And the donate pile is what you donate to your other family members or to Goodwill and whatnot. We also know that there are some things that Goodwill will take and that Goodwill will not take. So we have all of that is going to be going on that website soon, and that's going to be absolutely free to any of our subscribers. So we're going to find out through our network exactly what most people will do as far as that's concerned, and then we pass that information on with you. So anyway, give us a call, 919-614-6288. It rings right straight directly to this little thing right here. Or you can call the office, 919-723-1782. And if I'm out of the office, it also comes right straight to here. And then once we have that initial discussion, then we turn around and we point you in the appropriate manner. And not only that, but folks, in some cases, you want to find an attorney. We also partner up with some attorneys to do some estate planning, as well as creating a will for your kids or for you, as far as that's concerned. So have a great weekend. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.